My name is Jayson Veley. I used to go here. I'm currently I'm going to my junior year at Eastern Connecticut State University. I did used to go here. And today I have a presentation for you that I feel is really, really important. I want to talk to you about something that really, really is close to my heart. The title of it is called Restoring Patriotism. By a show of hands, how many of you guys are big history buffs? Any of you guys really like history at all? Big fan? A few. I understand that. I used to hate history, to be honest with you. I used to look at it and say, who cares about studying a bunch of dead guys? I didn't care too much about the Constitution. Didn't care too much about the history of America. And then I started to get really, really into it and really, really interested in it. And I have a story that I want to tell you guys before I get into the later part of my presentation today. Just to give you a little bit of background about what I've done, and it'll all tie in by the end of this presentation. In the year 2008, I started to get really, really interested in politics and current issues and what's going on in this country. It just really, really started to interest me a lot. And what I ended up doing in 2008, I was in my freshman year of high school, I think. And I went up to my friend Connor, who also went here on a little side note, and I asked him if he wanted to start this YouTube channel where we would essentially talk about current issues and what's going on in America right now, and we'd post these 10-minute clips on YouTube, and we'd like to get feedback from people. We'd like to get comments from people on these videos and engage with them in debate and hear what they had to say. And so I remember the first day, it was kind of embarrassing looking back at it now. We went into my basement, and we set up a small card table. We got my cheap $200 camera and put it on a tripod and started filming these little 10-minute clips to put on YouTube. And this is a screenshot of our very, very first episode that we did. Again, really, really short, nothing professional. This was, again, 6 years ago. Just really, really short clips, 10 minutes long. And again, it was just to, engage kids your age and see what they had to say online. And so essentially what happened is we did about 3 or 4 of these clips, and we put them online, and we got a lot of negative feedback. And it wasn't necessarily just people who disagreed with us. We didn't mind that. We liked talking to people, and we liked, engaging people in debate. The kind of feedback that we were getting was just very, very... kids, I remember a lot of kids were teasing us about what we were doing and stuff like that. A lot of kids were, saying, why are you getting interested in politics? What are you guys doing? I remember going to school a few days and, kids would, joke about what we were doing and stuff like that. And it really, really started to get to me and my friend Connor too, because we liked what we were doing a lot. We just didn't like, the reaction from the other students. I remember this one day in particular, I'll never forget this. I had a good friend named Kevin. And again, he was a really, really close friend of mine. And he came up to me one day and he pulled me aside and said, Jayson, I realize that you like doing what you're doing, putting these YouTube videos online. But you as your best friend, I really, really think you should stop doing this. And this really, really meant something to me because, again, this wasn't just some kid. This was one of my good friends. And he said, I want to keep doing this if I were you because you're hurting your reputation. I mean, you guys all know. No one likes to be picked on. No one likes to be teased. And he just advised me to stop doing it. And so I went home that day and I really, really thought about it. And I didn't know what to do. And over the next few months, things got a little... more chaotic, if you will. We did move to, I don't know if you guys know, we have a television studio right here in Wethersfield called WCTV, and me and my friend Connor moved to the studio to do our show there. Instead of on YouTube, we did it on television, which was kind of cool, but we still got this negative feedback from the kids. And so over the next few months, it got progressively worse. The comments online, the comments from kids in school, and even among our own team. We had my brother involved and my friend Jacob involved too. And I remember, we were fighting a lot as a team. And it just wasn't going very well. And I remember one day we got into this big argument when we were at the studio after doing one of our shows. And I walked out. It was really, really loud, and I slammed the door, and I swear to you, I thought that was it. I thought that, we'd never do another show again. I thought that was it. So about 2 months go by, and then something happened. So we got contacted by a producer from Fox News National. And this is essentially what happened.
Well, hello, America. Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight we have another chapter in our special of Time to be Heard. Okay. When we come back, we're gonna have more conversation and with the audience as well, and then I want to show you possibly future politicians, but possibly future replacements for me. To share that with you coming up.
This is the goal of our show. This is a diagram of what we have personally observed in our school.
I'm out of a job very soon. Okay, Connor. You learned about that in school?
Yeah, we actually did. My social studies teacher.
Wait, what's your social studies teacher? Give him praise here.
Mr. Mosier. He's a very good social studies teacher. It's a very interesting class.
You're teaching this, Mr. Mosier. I want to come take your class.
So that show was quite the experience. That show that you just saw there, again, was on Fox News. Had a few million viewers each night. So the moral of the story is essentially we went from, in just under a year, as a matter of fact, we went from doing a small YouTube series from our basement at a card table to being now picked up, and invited on Fox News to talk about what we do. And it was a really, really kind of cool experience. And after that, we just kept going. We said, okay, well, we have a really, really good opportunity now. Let's just take this and go with it. Let's see what happens. And so a few things happened. A few things happened because we never gave up. Number one, I currently have a radio network online called Junior Factor Nation. And what it does is essentially it engages kids from all across the country, as a matter of fact, to get involved in not only politics, but current issues, anything that really interests them. And we have a team of about 10 different radio hosts, all of which air live on the site every day of the week. And we also have a team of columnists who write articles and opinions. And again, the whole idea of this network is to get kids your age and a little bit older involved in current issues and what's going on in this country. The Leadership Institute was another great opportunity that happened for us. The Leadership Institute is essentially an organization that we attended and went to in Washington, D.C., and what they aim to do is essentially what we do with our network, and that is getting kids involved in current issues. It's bipartisan. There's a picture of me and Connor with the president of the Leadership Institute. I have 2 books published, as a matter of fact. One that I came out with in 2012 called The Other Side. And the second one that I just came out with actually a few months ago called Telephone. They're up on Amazon right now, and it's kind of a cool thing. And then just recently, this was literally about 2 weeks ago, I was given the incredible opportunity of going on Fox News, not once but twice in the same week for the story that I was covering. And they spelled my name wrong there, but they got it right there, and I try to ignore that. That was really, really kind of a cool experience. Because this was, again, the second and third times that this kind of thing is happening. So now, I owe this to three things, essentially. This path that I'm on to success. I owe 3 things. Number one, I thank God. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that God has a plan for every single one of us, and I realize that people have different faiths, but that's my number one person I thank. Number 2, I thank my family for where I am, for what I've been doing. They have been just so supportive of me. I have a younger brother who's just turned 17. My mother and my father and my uncle have all just been very, very supportive of me. And number 3, and most importantly, and this is what I want to get into now, is I thank this country. I thank America. I thank this land of opportunity. For 2 reasons. America has 2 things to offer. 2 valuable things to offer. They are, number 1, opportunity, and number 2, liberty. I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to make this a little interactive here. Can anyone give me like a little definition of what they think opportunity means? Come on, guys, don't do this to me. Anyone? Yeah, there you go.
Wait, what did you say?
Just, what does opportunity mean to you?
What does it mean to me?
Yeah.
Opportunity, well, what it means to me is like trying out new stuff.
There you go.
Even though you might fail, which is probably almost a possibility. But
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How exactly did you go from a basement and a cardboard box from all the way on TV?
I mean, I'll answer more of that at the end if I have time. But it was just, I don't know. We just stuck it out. Again, we got a lot of negative feedback, but the main thing, and I know it sounds cliche, is that we just kept going. We just kept pressing forward and just not giving up no matter what people said. Now, if I have time at the end, I'll go more into that in a little bit. Number 2, liberty. Can anyone tell me what they think the word liberty means? Go ahead. Yep, freedom. Anyone else? It's essentially the same thing. Freedom, liberty, having the ability to pursue your own interests. Both of these things are very, very valuable things that this country has to offer us. Opportunity and liberty. That's why I thank this country. That's why I thank this country for going from, a small card table in the basement to appearing multiple times on national television. Opportunity and liberty. Now, why do we have liberty? Why do we have liberty in this country? I know that, you all hear that America is the land of the free. You've heard over and over and over again. Have you ever thought about why we have the freedoms that we do? Essentially, just to put it in as simplest terms as possible, it's because of men like this. George Washington. Ben Franklin. You guys have all heard these names before. Thomas Jefferson. James Madison. Thomas Paine. These brilliant men are why we have the country that we have today. These brilliant minds are why we have the liberty and opportunity that we currently have right here in America today. Because of men like that. I have a few key points that I want to cover about the creation of this country. About how the Founding Fathers set up this country to preserve liberty and preserve things like opportunity. Number 1, it's important to know that America is more than a country. When the Founding Fathers set this country up, it was more than a country to them. America was an experiment. America was more than just a country to our Founding Fathers. America was an experiment. This kind of system, this kind of government system, was never created anywhere on earth before this. This kind of system that was centered around the 3 words, we the people. Those 3 words that you've probably heard many, many times in every single social studies class you've ever been in. We the people. It was an experiment to see if man could govern themselves. To see if man could govern themselves. Self-governance was the experiment. To see if man could truly live free without being overly governed. And just for further proof, we have the Bill of Rights, written for we the people. Written for we the... You guys have probably all heard about the Bill of Rights. You probably all can list some of the amendments. The freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to bear arms. You guys probably have heard all these before. Have you ever looked at the text? They're written in a very, very specific way. There's a pattern to them. And the pattern is this. Every single right we have in the Bill of Rights, and the Founding Fathers did this on purpose. Every single right we have was written not for the government, but for we the people. They say what we the people can do, not the government. That's very, very important. We the people have the freedom to practice religion. We the people have the freedom of speech. We the people have the right to bear arms. We the people have privacy rights. This was intentional. They wrote this way intentionally. And we also have the 3 branches of government. I won't spend too much time on this because you guys have probably all heard it before. You have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. You know why we have 3 branches? It's because the Founding Fathers were committed when they were setting up this country to not only preserving liberty, but also to preventing tyranny. They set up a system of checks and balances so that not one branch of government could grow more powerful than the other. They were very, very concerned that another dictator would emerge in America. They wanted to prevent that at all costs. And they wanted to create a system that maintained liberty for generations and generations to come, the same liberty that you and I enjoy today. Now, the Founding Fathers were absolutely 100% committed to liberty. Absolutely 100% committed to liberty, and there's many different examples of that. Number one, I don't know if you guys have covered this yet, but the Federalist Papers, written by three men, John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. I'm sure you guys, I remember being in middle school, I'm sure you guys have all written, those 5 paragraphs persuasive essays on different topics. That's essentially what the Federalist Papers were. The Founding Fathers, these 3 men, wrote the Federalist Papers in order to persuade the other colonists in America at the time to adopt the United States Constitution. Because not everyone was on board with the United States Constitution, because they felt as though it would give the federal government too much power. And the people that opposed the U.S. Constitution were called the Anti-Federalists, who favored a looser, more limited government. And they followed the Articles of Confederation. Just 2 quotes here from from the Federalist Papers. Quote, "The fabric of American empire ought to rest on the solid basis of the consent of the people. The streams of national power ought to flow from that pure original fountain of all legitimate authority." Again, consent of the people. Notice it doesn't say consent of the government, it says consent of we the people. We are the rulers in this country. It's our country. It is the reason alone of the public that ought to control and regulate the government, not the other way around. Many countries at this time had a system in which the government regulated and controlled its people. The Founding Fathers came along and said, no, that's not the way we're going to set this up. We're going to completely flip that system upside down. And instead of having the government on the top and the people on the bottom, they now put the people on the top as the rulers of the government. Completely revolutionary. The Boston Tea Party, another commitment to liberty. You guys have probably all heard about this. December 16th, 1773. In an attempt to control the colonists, the King of England imposed heavy, heavy taxes on the colonists. And the colonists felt as though they were being taxed without representation. So in an act of protest, when a few shipments of tea came into Boston Harbor on this December day in 1773, a group of colonists dressed as Indians boarded these boats and dumped all of the tea into the Boston Harbor and said, we are being taxed without representation. It sent a clear message to the king that said, we want liberty. We want our freedom. Valley Forge. Probably rock bottom of the Revolutionary War. You guys all hopefully know about the Revolutionary War. This was rock bottom. Rock bottom. Conditions were absolutely terrible. It occurred in the winter of 1777 to 1778. George Washington and his men were cooped up here at Valley Forge for months. Again, conditions were terrible. 1 in 3 of his men were forced to walk through this deep snow without any shoes whatsoever, anything on their feet. Their feet would be cut and scraped from the excessive marching. There would be blood in the snow because of the terrible conditions that there were. They were forced to eat these things called fire cakes at Valley Forge because of lack of food and supplies. Fire cakes were nothing more than flour and water cooked into a pancake. Sounds pretty disgusting. A lot of people died. It was cold, terrible conditions. But George Washington, being the fantastic leader that he was, tried as hard as he possibly could to keep the morale of his troops high. And they pushed through. And eventually, as you all know, they won. And then finally, signing the Declaration of Independence. You've all probably seen a picture like this before, of the Founding Fathers signing the Declaration. You know why this is significant? It's because if the Founding Fathers, if the colonists lost the Revolutionary War, every single person who signed that Declaration of Independence would have been executed right there on the spot, killed. But they signed it. They took a huge risk because they believed in liberty. Now I want to fast forward right now to the beginning of the 20th century, the early 1900s. Millions of people immigrated from Europe to America. They immigrated really from all parts of the world, but there was a lot of them that came from Europe. Now the reason, to put in simplest terms, was because of opportunity. Because of the chance for success that this country had to offer. Many of them escaped religious, racial, or political prosecution in their countries and came to America for freedom, for liberty, for opportunity, to make something of their lives. Economic opportunity, again, to become successful, to make money, to start a business. Millions and millions and millions of people came to America because of what we're all about. On the Statue of Liberty, there is a quote that says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Now, what has opportunity given us? What has opportunity given us? Well, truthfully, it's given us a lot of things that we currently have today. Amazon.com. You all probably have either ordered something off Amazon before, once in your life, or know someone else who has. Amazon.com was actually founded by Jeff Bezos in 1994. It was started in his garage. In his home state of Washington. And in the past 20 years, Amazon has grown to the world's largest online retailer. Again, it started in a garage. Apple. You guys, many of you probably own a Mac or an iPod or something like that. Apple had very, very small beginnings as well. You all know Steve Jobs. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who were both in their 20s, started selling computers that were handmade to a local retailer for $500 a month. Again, they started this business out of their garage. Again, they were all hand-built. And Apple today is currently the most valuable technology company in the world because of the opportunity that we have here in America. Harley-Davidson. This began in 1901. William Harley created plans for a small bicycle motor, again in his garage. And he continued building these motorbikes for 2 years, and over the decades, Harley-Davidson had grown into the most well-known motorcycle brand in the world. Disney. You guys all know Disney? This is an interesting story, as a matter of fact. A man by the name of Walt Disney started a company in his shack in the backyard, in a small storage shack in California in the year 1923 with his brother, Roy. And he started filming Alice comedies, he called them, which eventually grew into what we all know today as Alice in Wonderland. And what started as a small project in a shack in the backyard grew into the Disney that we all know today. And finally, Google. Google, everyone Googles today. Everyone uses Google as a search engine. We all know what it is. This was actually started by students. College students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who started what's known as Google, in a garage again in the year 1998. They initially tried to sell their project for $1 million because schoolwork became too much to keep up with it. And they got rejected. No one wanted Google at first, even for $1 million, which was a bargain. And today, obviously, Google is the most visited site in the world. We put a man on the moon in 1969. We put a man on the moon. There is no greater example of American exceptionalism than what we did in 1969. We dreamed big. We put a man on the moon. We sent a man into outer space. That to me is amazing. That to me is amazing. I have this video I want to show you guys, and hopefully, I hope the volume is loud enough. I don't know what's going on with it, but take a look at this.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
The crisis we're facing today does not require of us the kind of sacrifice that Martin Treptow and so many thousands of others were called upon to make. It does require, however, our best effort and our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe in our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together, with God's help, we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
So guys, just wrapping up now. At the beginning of the presentation, I told you my story. And I said that it wasn't really about me. I'm not doing it as, because I'm egotistical. It was about you. I told that story in the beginning. I told what I have accomplished because I want to inspire all of you. I want to show you, prove a point that this is the land of opportunity. You can, if you want to, go from a small card table in the basement to appearing on national television with an audience of 5 million if you want to, because you live in America. So do me a favor, when you go to high school, when you go to college, please dream big. Go for your goals. Accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. Because you can, because you're American. And the last point is, don't ever, ever be ashamed to call yourself an American. Thank you, guys.